didn't moonwalk back. Do you know how to moonwalk?
I don't even know how to Mars walk. Or Earth walk, for that matter.
Mars is
I
farther
know how to
away.
lie and walk.
I know how to walk like an Egyptian.
But I've
Walk
never had a
like an
Mars bar.
Egyptian. What was it? The bluegrass version of that?
I wonder if Jesus learned how to walk like an Egyptian while he was, he was there from the time he was born until like he was 2.
That's true. That's
So,
at that age though. That's not a lot of time to learn much.
but
of
that's
anything.
the
Yeah, but
age
when
at
you
which you
learn how
learn
you
to
do it.
walk.
That's fair.
So, I mean, he learned to walk like an Egyptian.
Yeah, but see, his parents were still Jewish, so
I learned to walk
he
like
learned
an
to walk like
Egyptian
Egyptian.
He learned to walk
and like
in
a
Egypt,
Jewish person,
Yes.
and like a
which
Greek person and a German person,
Mhm.
because we all learned to walk.
except for the people that
Did-
didn't.
Do
Well,
Egyptians walk differently than other humans?
No, I don't think so. I think that was like a dance or something. That's, I mean, it was like a. Well, it's from the paintings, the hieroglyphs on the wall where they're always like.
Yeah, I wonder what started that. Was it a ceremonial dance or something? Where
Probably.
they stuck their hands out like.
Yeah, probably it was some sort of. Anyway, but we aren't really here to talk about Egypt. We are here to talk
Debatable.
about Jesus. Well, debate it another time on your own time or on a different
Okay.
video. This one is about Christianity as we continue our world religions. And this time we are going to look at a brief, well, I mean, it's the same length of history, but it's an overview. Are you okay?
No, he touched
So yes,
my
we're
side
He
looking at-
touched me. He touched me. It's like 5-year-olds all over again. Stop touching me. I'm not touching you.
You never get older than 5.
No.
I'm not touching you. All right. So, of course,
Does this bug you? Does this bug
hello. Can't-
Hi.
We're, there's a video.
So yes,
Hello.
we're having an overview of Christianity, the history of Christianity this time. And Abby and I aren't going to do much of importance because, as you can see, he has his computer out.
I have the
and
computer.
the entire timeline's on that, so
But okay, I
we're
mean,
not here.
what do you think is obviously the most important earliest things that are important in a history of Christianity?
Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus. Okay, so obviously his birth, which we say is sometime around 0, because, well, frankly, we're not exactly sure. Some put it as far back as 6 BC. Some say 4. Some say, yeah, because okay, so it's not like Jesus was born and they changed the calendars right then.
Yeah, I've got it, but I just a whole thing occurred to me. We've got the whole BC AD time system, and it's all just based around Jesus' birth.
Right.
What on earth did they do before he was born? Because nowadays we have the counting down
Well,
BC
you
to
realize
his birth.
the Jews still count time by their own methods.
Yeah.
They just started counting time from Adam or whatever.
Huh.
So yeah, that's still, I mean, and the Chinese have their own calendar system.
But wouldn't we have a record?
So this
of
is the
when
Hebrew
Herod
year
killed everybody?
5,780. The Jewish year is 5,780.
Huh.
So, yeah.
Wouldn't we have a record of when, what year Herod killed all the little children?
It's a weird thing that when kings are killing a bunch of people, they have a tendency not to really make a big deal out of that.
For that matter, when anybody's killing a bunch of people,
Yeah, they kind of don't.
It generally tries to stay under the radar.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So the Chinese year. This is 4718 of the Chinese year.
Okay.
So, anyway. So, yeah, so not everybody counts BC and AD.
Yeah.
And of course, now a lot of the agnostic and atheistic people have gone to BCE and CE before the Common Era and the Common Era.
Which is kind of funny because it's still based off of the central point of
yeah.
Jesus' birth.
Right. Which, it doesn't make any sense that. But anyway, often the things human beings do don't make a lot of sense.
Yep.
It doesn't make a lot of sense for Christians to have days of the week that are named after the sun, the moon, and Norse gods.
Yeah.
But, hey, people do lots of weird things that don't make
and
a lot
the
of sense.
Caesar.
That's the months.
That's a month.
That's a month, yeah.
Yeah. Months named after Caesars and the Roman and Greek gods.
Yeah. It's
I never figured out February though. I'm not sure where that one comes from.
I don't know. Have to look that up sometime. Next time on Pointless Trivia that you're glad you don't know and wish we didn't tell you. So,
We should rename this channel.
yeah, we could. Pointless Trivia you don't care about. That'd probably get 1 million subscribers.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to know that. It's like nobody will take time to research something, but they'll take 15
That
minutes
is
to figure
a
out what kind of
big
potato they
bug.
are. That is. It looks like a stink bug.
Oh.
Don't squish it.
He's cool. I kind of want to get up in the middle of this recording and go look at him.
This is what happens when I do this somewhere outside where they can see things.
Yeah.
Instead of just like with a nothing but a white wall behind the camera for them to stare at.
Well, the white wall was very interesting too.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
It just
All right.
wasn't interesting enough to comment on.
So Jesus was born sometime in the neighborhood of what we call 0 to 1 AD. And of course, again, they didn't start counting time then.
Yes.
So.
I've heard estimates all the way up to 5 in either direction.
I think I've heard 6 BC. I've never really heard after. I've never heard it go the other way. I've heard that he was born anywhere from 5 to 0. I've never heard that they got it to, because of, part of it is based on when certain kings did certain things, and
Gotcha.
like when Augustus had the census thing going on.
Yeah.
And,
So
that guy, when they were done in Egypt, Joseph was afraid to go back up.
right,
because
and then
of
when the king died,
king's son.
right, so that gives us a range too. When the king died, and then the king's son took over. But some of those things, it's not like, it's not like they had the internet that like had these things time stamped and dated. They didn't take pictures that had a timestamp and a GPS coordinates on it.
Yep.
So some of it, when we're just trying to look back into history, it's a little bit of guesswork about the exact years and things. So it's anyway. So he lived approximately 33 years. The Bible tells us that he started his ministry, his teaching and preaching and everything. He started that around the time he was 30. So, that around the time you're 30 could be anything from 29 to 31 to, 27 or 28 up to 33 or something. I mean, around 30, is a kind of a vague. It's not like he started on his 30th birthday or something.
Yeah. Hebrew in general is a very vague language. They often have to state things multiple times in slightly different ways to get the point across as to what they're trying to say.
Yeah, there are definitely some differences from English or Greek, which I'm glad the New Testament was written in Greek, because Greek is a much more precise language to understand.
Greek is a lot simpler.
Yeah, translating the Old Testament is a challenge, I know, for even the best of scholars, and sometimes you can get two translations of the same passage that will read drastically different. I mean, in Greek, they're going to be fairly similar 99% of the time, unless it's the Cotton Patch Bible. But, other than that,
We've talked about that one.
they're going to get it fairly close. They may choose different words in one, synonyms and things, but yeah, sometimes, I mean, it's like you're reading an Old Testament passage in one translation, and it says something about a dragon, and then you read it in the other translation, it says it's a water buffalo, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, those are two really different animals. So which
Yes.
one is it? So, there's just a lot of things like that. Actually, I think it's unicorn and water buffalo, not dragon and water buffalo. But anyway, so Jesus lived about 33 years. His ministry started when he was around 30. Then about 33 was when he was crucified, which obviously was a pretty big deal. As you know, Christians still, crosses and crucifixes still play a big part.
Yep.
What's the difference between those two?
Oh, that's a good question. Xander, do you know what the difference between a cross and a crucifix is?
I'm not sure if I remember.
Okay, so the cross.
Is
What?
a cross just like a cross, and then a crucifix is like a cross with like the crown and the nails?
Close. It's actually more. The crucifix is actually got an image of Jesus hanging on the cross.
Gotcha.
So if you've seen like the little necklaces that have the cross, and then they've got like the little. I mean, it's not like real detailed usually, but just like a little. You can tell there's supposed to be a person hanging there.
Yeah.
That's the crucifix. So there's a little difference between a cross and a crucifix there. But both of those have played important roles throughout the history of Christianity. All right, so around somewhere in the neighborhood of, again, because of date things, somewhere between 25 and 30, John the Baptizer, starts his ministry.
Yeah.
Starts preparing the way of the Lord, as he says. He's the voice crying in the wilderness. Later, he is, of course, arrested and crucified, beheaded. Sorry. And Jesus is still teaching and preaching. And then, of course, he is crucified, and his crucifixion is a big deal. After his crucifixion,
The disciples steal his body.
that's
It's actually a trade
Jewish people
secret.
said.
We don't tell very many people that because, it kind of
You're
undermines
so helpful.
the foundation of the entire
Right.
religion. But yeah.
So the tomb was found empty. The guards, didn't really have an explanation for
Yeah.
why, which as a Roman guard is not
Yes.
good.
In
And
case,
yet they weren't executed.
yeah.
which
In case you don't know,
lets you
if,
know there was some sort of a conspiracy going on there.
if you were guarding something, if you were a Roman guard, you were guarding something.
Roman soldiers, they didn't just court-martial people.
No. If
Wasn't
you
it that?
failed, you were dead.
Yeah.
Because it was actually considered a traitorous action to
Yeah.
the empire. And so
You
if you
failed.
messed up, if you failed,
You're a loser, baby, so why don't you kill them
Yeah.
or something like that?
yeah,
I don't know how
it
that's
wasn't just, oh, you messed up, you did
You
a
messed
bad
up.
thing.
You're gonna have to
It was
wash.
more of like,
You're gonna have to scrub the bathroom with a toothbrush. No,
Yeah. It was
No,
more
you're
of
gonna
like,
die.
no, you have abandoned your duty to the empire
Yeah.
and the emperor.
And we see that when in the book of Acts, when Paul and Silas are in prison, and the Philippian jailer, who is a Roman soldier person, I mean, he's
Yes.
not, but he's a Roman in charge of guarding prisoners, and he's told, guard them, keep them, in the inner cell, whatever. And so there's a big earthquake. The cell doors bust open. He was sleeping, which, you got to sleep sometimes, right? I mean, they're chained up. What's going to happen, right?
Exactly.
But the chains all fell off. The doors came open because it's, a big earthquake. And, of course, a miracle to, but he wakes up and he sees the doors open. And his first thought is not, oh, whoops, we better tell somebody. His first thought is, I'm going to get my sword out and shove it through my heart. I'm going to kill myself. Because better for me to do it than them.
Yeah.
Because they're going to kill me.
Yep.
You hear kids say that a lot. Oh, my parents are going to kill me. Most of the time, with most kids, that's just hyperbole. That's just an exaggeration. Their parents are not really going to kill them. But if a Roman soldier fell down on his job and he said, "They're going to kill me," he meant they're going to kill me.
Yes.
So when Jesus' body that was in a tomb that had been sealed with the Roman seal, the governor's seal, and guarded by soldiers,
When it
turned
was,
up empty.
Yeah, when it was empty.
The
and
stone
open,
was rolled away.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that people don't often think about this is the way that they made those tombs into the cave, dug into the rock, and then a big stone, imagine a big flat disc or up on and then rolled down into a valley in front of the door.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, it was up against there and they just pushed it away. It was in a track they would have had to have lifted that thing that would have weighed several tons up a hill to get it out from in front of that door.
Yes.
And I know, yeah, he had 12 apostles, right?
Along with
and they're
like,
strong guys, they're fishermen and stuff.
Yeah,
but
along with
seriously.
breaking the seal that was there.
Yeah, I mean,
Which,
and there's the other thing is, if somebody had broken a seal on a Roman tomb that was being guarded by Romans,
Yep.
they would have hunted them down and killed them.
Yep.
But they didn't.
Yeah.
And so, you have this, the guards that were guarding them don't get killed. The people who supposedly stole the body are never arrested by the Romans.
Nope. Aren't hunted down.
I mean, and it's not like it was hard to figure out who Jesus' 12 closest disciples were. Well, 11 at that point, because Judas had already killed himself. But anyway, all right, so then we have, from around 30 to 33-ish, somewhere in there, AD, on to 100 AD, give or take, 90, 95, somewhere in there. We have what is called the Apostolic Age, and this is when Jesus' apostles, the men who he had actually taught and trained himself, are alive and out there teaching and preaching.
And turning the world upside down.
Yeah. Or maybe they would say turning it right side up.
Well, yeah, that's maybe more accurate.
So you have then one of the big ones who was not actually one of his original apostles, one of his original disciples, but was actually one who was persecuting them and then was converted to their religion.
Polycarp.
No, Paul. Polycarp.
Polycarp.
No, just Paul.
Paul
E. Carp came later.
Paul
E. Carp.
Carp.
No, Paul E. Carp.
Paul eats carp.
No, he came
Sure
later.
He did.
He's later. Anyway, so Paul's does a lot of missionary traveling.
Later, now he's just a small fry.
Okay.
Smack.
We don't
that
need
was
any
the
small
last
fries.
video.
Enough. All right. So he does his missionary travels and he dies around 67 AD, give or take.
Oh boy.
In 70 AD, big event for a couple of different religions, as well as the Romans, I suppose. Titus destroys Jerusalem.
Yep. And
1.5 million Jews died.
doesn't he also make
He
makes
corrupts
some
the temple, destroys the temple
Yeah,
and everything.
he also makes I read about it somewhere. It's actually really cool. It's called like Titus's Gate or Titus's Arch or something that is in Jerusalem, I believe. Once he conquered it, he made it either in Jerusalem or in somewhere in Rome, Italy area as kind of like
Well, they often
an
built things
establishment.
to memorialize their victories and things.
So
I
see,
don't know about.
here's the
I'm
thing.
not familiar with that one particularly.
When he made it, he supposedly like cursed it or whatever, so that if any Jew walked through the gateway under the arch, then that Jew would no longer be a Jew. And so
I don't think you can do that.
I know you can't, and it's just kind of funny because from what I read, some of the Jews actually still they are very serious about
That they
not
won't walk
walking
through
under
there.
that. and I'm just like, you guys, that's not how it works.
Titus may have destroyed Jerusalem, but he's not powerful enough to make you not be Jews anymore.
Yes.
I had not heard that. That's interesting, to say the least. You'll want to fact check that one.
Yeah, I don't remember where I got that from. I just remember reading it somewhere. I'm gonna fact check that one as well.
So sometime around 90 to 100 AD, the last apostle, as far as we know, probably was John, and he would have been, I guess, one of the youngest maybe, but he died a natural death of old age, seemingly, as opposed to almost all the others were supposedly killed in one way or another. Although we really don't have a lot of records of a lot of them. So
you can read. There's the book, Fox's Book of Martyrs.
yes,
That is generally accepted as, what happened to the early church leaders and the apostles.
yeah, he did a lot of research on that.
Yes, but it is not inspired and should be taken with a
But
grain of
I'll
salt.
tell you, it is an interesting set of
Yes.
stories about people who died because of what they believed in,
Yes.
for sure. And that's Foxe, Foxe,
Mm-hmm.
is his name, John Foxe. But you can look that. You can get that free. I think. What's the Gutenberg? Gutenberg has that.
Yeah, the Gutenberg Project.
LibriVox probably has that. It's free to have and to look at.
If you want a lot of older-ish stories that are in the public domain, you can go to the GutenbergProject.org, I believe.
Yeah.
Just do a Google search on Gutenberg
And LibriVox
Project.
has a lot too.
LibriVox
and they also
is-
have where you can listen to them too. So.
Yeah, they're
Both of
generally
those do
more
that.
audiobooks, aren't they?
More audiobooks, but they have some text too.
Nice.
Anyway, so oddly enough, this may surprise some people. We have now from 100 to 590-ish, the post-apostolic age, and again, these dates are rough dates. Around 2 to 300-ish, the earliest translations of the Bible start to appear. They actually begin to translate the Greek New Testament. When I say Bible translation, we're really talking about the Greek, because the Hebrew had already been translated into Greek. Much of the Old Testament, or what the
And by that point, had maybe been translated into Latin as well.
I don't know if it would have ever been translated that early on. I hear a lot about the Septuagint. I don't remember
'Cause
hearing
I
about a
know-
Latin version.
I know the Vulgate is the entire Latin Bible. But I know that
that's
came
way,
much later.
Yeah, that's way later. I don't know if the Jewish Bible would have been translated. Anyway, we'd have to look into that. But anyway, they start translating some things. Around 313 to 337-ish, Constantine.
Legalizes Christianity.
He does. You're right. See, you know some things.
Yeah.
You know things.
That's in the timeline.
That's in the
Constantine
timeline.
legalizes Christianity. India's Gupta dynasty. Council of Nicaea. Augustine of
Nicaea.
Hippo. Nicaea.
Nycissa, I don't know what that is. Nicaea.
Augustine of Hippo. Jerome completes the Vulgate. Viscos.
Okay, well you're moving right on along through a whole lot of things. So yeah, Constantine became emperor in 313. He not only legalized it, but he actually made it a state religion.
Yes.
And he called for a council, the Council of Nicaea that you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
to get together leaders from all over the church, of all the churches, that's what Christians called their groups. They're in local towns as churches. And so you got all these churches. And got leaders together to talk about what is and isn't real Christianity. Remember, we talked about that. The debate over what is and isn't real Christianity and what makes someone a real Christian or not
Yes.
has been being debated for a long time. But yeah, so that's where that started. Notice that was some 300 years after Jesus died.
Yes.
about 300 years later. So a lot of things have been going
So,
on since then.
Jesus dies, and the apostles establish the church, and then
Teachings.
300
and
years after that, they're like, okay,
people, we need to decide what a Christian
we
is.
need to figure out how Christian. Just that's the end of that sentence. We need to figure out how Christian.
I don't. That
We
doesn't
need to
sound
figure
like
out
a
how
complete sentence.
English.
Yeah, I'll need to
Well, they
figure
didn't
out
have
how
English back
something.
then.
Anyway, the Vulgate that you mentioned, which was the first Latin translation, which made it possible
Yes.
for people throughout the Roman world who spoke Latin and not Greek to be able to read the Bible, was actually done in 400.
Mhm.
Oh,
That's
I
when it was
always
finished.
thought the Vulgate was like a gate for Vulcans or something.
That's Vulcans are in Star Trek. That they're not real. I hate to. Oh, I'm sorry. Spoilers, sweetie. Vulcans are not a real group of people.
Okay, a
No.
gate for voles.
No, the
Voles exist.
Vole-
They steal your socks, but only the left ones. What's
and
with
only
that?
if you leave them in the ground, because that's where voles live.
Mm.
No, the Vulgate is actually the translation. It's actually Vulgate is similar to where we get the word vulgar.
Yes.
There were a lot of people who were very upset at the idea of translating it into, because Vulgate, that wasn't the high classical Latin.
No.
That was the ordinary everyday Latin.
Yeah.
That's like the difference between British English and American English.
Yes.
Market.
American English.
And not just
And
like
not
British
just-
English,
and I
like
didn't just-
Cockney, but like the Queen's English.
Yeah.
The very high,
Right,
sophisticated
it's like-
variety.
It's like the difference in the
Kev,
Queen's
what's
English
tea?
and Cockney.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes.
it's about like that. So the Vulgate was the common language, and some people were very upset.
Yeah.
But
It would be
Koine
like
Greek, which is what the Bible was originally
Mhm.
written in, was the common language.
it would be like if nowadays, and this isn't an exact example, but it's close enough and it's current. It would be like if nowadays someone translated the Bible into text, as in like modern day texting.
You know, somebody's
shorthand
done
and
that.
everything. Have they?
Yeah, they have one that's just like short text things and emojis. There's like an emoji Bible. Somebody wrote an emoji Bible. I don't know how exactly you translate some of those things into emoji. But you know, the Bible has been translated into so many different languages. It's unbelievable how much. And we don't mention all this just because there is a part of an American flag up above my head. I have a daughter who's, since she was a little bitty, was obsessed with American flags for some reason.
We'd sit at
And-
McDonald's and we'd be like, "Hey,
Hey, what's-
what's that?" And she'd be like,
Yeah,
"American flag."
yeah. Most 2-year-olds would go McDonald's, but no, she goes American flag. I'm like, no, we're at McDonald's. But, okay, American flag. I think my wife actually posted a video somewhere on Facebook or something of her doing that.
Yeah.
All right, so then they had some more councils from 431 to 451. There was councils in Ephesus and Chalcedon.
And,
And-
the Geneva
Middle
Convention.
Ages. Council
And
of
So that kind of
Chalcedon.
brings us to then, like, around 590 to 1300-ish
Western
is the medieval
Postbot.
church. This is the medieval times. And this is when, these are some dark years for Christianity. In a lot of ways. There's a lot of bad things that happen during these times. That's one of the reasons they're sometimes called the Dark Ages. Because some bad stuff happens. And
yeah.
some of it in the name of Christianity. Not things that Christ would have approved of, mind
No.
you, or that he did approve of in the things that he taught. In fact, some of them quite opposite of what he would have approved of.
If
and
you've
what he did
ever
say.
watched any show or movie or read a book where there was a leader and there were followers, you know the followers don't do what the leader wants them to do all the time.
it's weird how that works.
Yes. That's what we
Yeah.
call free will. We've talked about it on this channel several times before.
Yeah.
It is incredibly important, essential to being human, to worshiping God, and sometimes it just kind of turns the wrong direction and gets us a little bit in trouble.
Or a lot in trouble,
Yeah.
depending on how far it turns. So okay, we probably we'll get into this a little later on. In right around this time in 625 is when Muhammad begins writing the Quran. So we start to see the beginnings of Islam coming up in this time frame.
Yes.
And that's an important thing because later there's going to be a lot of conflict between Christianity and Islam, and it still is to this day.
Yeah.
Conflict there, but we will
For
pick
that
up.
matter, there's a lot of conflict between Islam and just about everybody.
Including Islam,
Well, yeah, that's
just like there's a lot of conflict between Christians and other Christians.
Mhm.
That, I mean, you think about one of the things that comes to mind is Northern Ireland, where Protestants and Catholics are still occasionally, upset at each other
Pulling
enough to blow
guns.
something up.
yeah.
Although, maybe they're about. I think at this point it's actually much more of a political thing than it is actually a religious difference. But yeah, it certainly at times in the past it was a big deal.
Yeah.
The Catholics and the Protestants in that area, definitely a big deal. We will pick up with I don't know. We'll pick up with the Crusades, 1095 and following.
Crusades
Next
work.
time, and then we'll go on from there.
Yeah,
so
we'll
we've
have
covered about the about the first 1,000 years.
1291.
Not a whole lot really of great substance happens in those years as far as the overall. Some things that do happen leading up to 1,000 that we would see if we look. Changes in things like baptism went from being an immersion to being a suffusion to being suffusion's not the word. What's the word for it? Well, where they'd lay them on the bed and just like pour water all over them. I've gone blank on the word all of a sudden. Anyway, you can look that up. It was that started becoming, and then to the point of pouring and sprinkling. Things happened in here where in the 600s ish, you have instruments of music entering the Roman Catholic Church. And actually it causes a schism between the Roman Catholic.
You're a
The
schism.
of the
I
church.
am I? I didn't know I was a schism.
Yeah.
And what did you
Take
say?
that.
East-west schism of the church.
Do you remember the date on that one? Did it say the date?
No.
They don't actually have the dates.
They don't have
on
the
them.
dates on some
Well,
of those
they
things.
don't have
It's
it on the
like
timeline.
at the beginning
Oh,
at the beginning of the verse they sing like the timeline like the chorus
this
part,
years.
and
yeah.
then these years, and,
And
then
then
they do
all
the
the
entire
things.
thing. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then like they break it up into sections, and then like every week you learn one section, and then you learn different history sentences about everything
Yeah.
that is in that section. But I don't remember the history.
It's a neat way to learn history. So the Great Schism happened about 1054. That split that. So that's right around 1,000. But also in that time, so the instrumental music.
Church split into Roman Catholic and
And
Eastern Orthodox. William the Conqueror
Okay, yeah.
defeated King Harold of England in 1066.
Hey, so do we have
and
English by this time?
started feudalism.
Okay, that's enough.
That's it.
We're not going to feudalism like the Hatfields and the McCoys.
Yes.
I just found
Stick 'em
out.
up.
I just found out that one of the Hatfields, of the Hatfield and McCoy, the thing that ended that strife was that one of the Hatfields was baptized by someone in the Church of Christ,
Cool.
and that ended the feud.
Someone who our grandmother actually thinks is related
may
to us.
may be related. Has the same last name. It's a McNeely last
Yes.
name, so may be related to. But yeah, there's lots of McNeelys, so
There
on
are.
different branches and stuff. It'd be interesting to find out. Anyway, so about 1,000. We
Whew.
covered. Hey, we did great. We covered 1,000 years. What is it?
And
An hour and a half?
I
35.
reached back
Alright.
into my
Woo.
foundation days and remembered some timelines.
You remembered your history. See, you can remember things. All right. Well, we'll see you next time, and maybe maybe we won't cover 1,000 years next time. We have to go down to just 500 or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I hope that you enjoyed, learned a little bit, enjoyed us just
And there's a lot more.
chattering.
I mean, like I said, these are the peak points. We're just hitting very high points. Lots of
and
things
we
skipped.
we obviously are only focusing on church history, so we by
yeah,
no
I mean-
means covered everything that happened
Well, this
in
is
that 1,000 years.
Christianity. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
Christianity.
it's about Christianity. So. Yeah.
So if you are looking for an actual history lesson about world history or something,
But let me explain.
not
to you.
really the place to go.
Church history is a college course that lasts a semester.
Yes.
For like the first half of it, and then there's another half that lasts another semester. So
Yes.
we're giving you the very shortened version.
Yes.
This is the Cliff's Notes version of church history.
Yeah. Normally, this would be like a 2-3 hour long college class
For every
for
for two
every
days-
every week or
2 days
2
a
days a
week.
week for
an
you know,
entire 4 months.
yeah.
So,
So this is very, very abbreviated, and that's what we've always said for the other religions. How we're not going to get super deep into them. We're going to try and do them justice, but we're not going to get really into the nitty gritty of all the different groups and philosophies and stuff, because with Christianity, just the history is 2 semesters worth of college courses.
yeah,
and
I'm
we,
sure,
we can't cover that
And
much.
think about the fact that like Judaism has been around
Even longer.
2,000 years longer
Yes.
than Christianity. So you can imagine the history that
Mhm.
they have there too.
And when you combine Judaism history, Christianity history, and then you add in Buddhism, Muslim,
Yeah, and Buddhism's history is probably
it's
just
about as long as
Judaism,
Judaism. I would
longer than
expect.
Christianity,
Yes.
and a completely different. At least with Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, you have the common thread of Abraham, and in there. But yeah, with Buddhism, it's a whole entirely different framework of names and cultures and everything. So yeah.
And then
Totally
you
different
add
stuff.
in Japanese, Chinese, other Asian ancestorial type religions almost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
there's
Hinduism, it
so
would take
much
us
history.
an hour just to list all their gods.
Yes,
Not to like describe, just to list them.
just to say their names.
Just to, I don't think I could say a lot of
Hinduism
them.
has a lot of gods.
There's a lot.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. So, but yeah, hope you enjoyed. Check out some other videos on the channel. We have stuff on prayer and sermons and just Bible studies on various different books in the Bible. Look into those and
Classes for kids. Classes
share
for
them with
women.
other people. See if they'll enjoy them as well.
Is deer?
That's what I was thinking.
All right.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Squishing her head.